Welcome to the Art to Heart podcast. My name is David Morin. I'm a former corporate sales guy turned poet. And this is where we explore how finding your voice can help your path and your purpose find you. Whether you're currently in a career transition or can't wait to be in one, we learn how leaning into creative expression can be the missing key to transforming your life and the life around you. Have you ever felt like you were only in the room? Like, no matter how many people you're surrounded by, you feel like you can't quite relate to anyone. That no one can really understand what it's like to be you. It's hard to put a specific word to what this feels like. Our guest today, Anika Aftab, has searched far and wide in many languages and cultures for the perfect word. She ultimately describes it as feeling like the only in the room. In fact, she feels so deeply about this that she's writing a book on it called, you guessed it, The Only in the Room. On the day this podcast episode was recorded earlier this year, Anika interviewed me for her book and her podcast. And we had so much fun that we decided to keep the conversation going and do an interview on mine. As life would have it, we're releasing the episodes on the same day too. So if you like this episode, make sure you check out her podcast called The Only in the Room to check out her episode interviewing me. Anika is one of the realest people I know. She doesn't pull her punches. She gets to the heart of what she's trying to say right away. And she doesn't mind being vulnerable about the lessons she's learned along the way. She has a very excited and grounded perspective of the universe that is childlike, yet mature. With wonder, yet with clarity. With awe, yet with obviously... At Anika's core is a hyper-awareness about the duality of what it means to be a human. In this episode, she shares a powerful excerpt from her book about loneliness versus being alone that I know you'll love. We talk about the moment she realized she was muting her own story. We talk about substance use and abuse and addictions. We talk about the mental wrestling around synchronicities and signs from the universe. We talk about angel numbers and what they could mean. And we also talk about what they could absolutely mean nothing. Thanks so much for joining us today, and let's dive in. What's up, y'all? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Art to Heart. My name is David. I am your host, and today we have Anika Aftab with us today. She's a friend that I met through the Third Door meeting. I've mentioned that in a couple episodes by now, I'm sure. And so she's another one of those personalities that is from that group. And anyway, she has got a very exciting project that she's working on. Actually, today she interviewed me for her project, and we wanted to keep the conversation going. So I was like, fuck it, let me interview mine. Let me interview you for mine now. And so here we are. This is, I'm excited. Anyways, Anika, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. And it's been a busy day, but overall really good.
Long time no see. It's been a couple hours.
I know, it's been a full 6 hours. It's like a whole work day.
So you have a couple of projects going on outside of work. Unless this is your work, please correct me, but you have a podcast for women in tech. I don't want to speak for you. Go ahead. Yeah, talk. What you got going on?
So I definitely do have a lot going on. I work in health technology right now, and that is separate from all of my projects. I've always just been passionate about the healthcare space. So I can talk about that. That's what I want to get my PhD in primary care, to be specific. So that's my academic healthcare side. I also have a book that I am currently in the process of writing, as well as, so this morning I interviewed you for my podcast / book. I'll use you in my book and then release those episodes as a continuation of the series. And then lastly, I got asked to be a guest host for the Women in Tech podcast series. I am not the host. It's Esprit. Look it up. They are fantastic. They highlight so many amazing women in technology. And I'm just really excited to be doing 9 interviews for them.
9. Is that all you're doing, or is that what you've done so far?
So I think that's all I can potentially do because I have so much else going on.
Wow.
But there isn't a limit. I just kind of set the goal for myself as 9.
Man, that's awesome. Congratulations on juggling all of that and
Oh.
having time for an afternoon last minute interview. um, so you for your book, you mentioned you might share an excerpt from that. Unless you got any
Absolutely.
poems you're hiding. Just kidding. We could share anything.
I was thinking if I don't have poems that I've written, but I do have poems that resonate with my soul. And there's
Mm,
one in particular, the Icarus poem. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I have.
It's essentially like you've heard the story of
Yeah.
Icarus, but it's about what you don't talk about in the story of Icarus is when,
Ooh.
he's actually falling down, he's laughing. He's so happy that he was able to get close enough to the sun, and sure it wasn't successful, but he was laughing on his way down. And that's like the last line of the poem. And oh my goodness, that resonates with my soul. I need that tattooed on my body. But
Okay,
I'm also,
I
oh,
have a
please.
follow up question, but I don't want to ruin
Absolutely.
it. And maybe it's a really bad first wanted question to ask, but I don't know. I kind of imagine like a madman, Joker esque type of person to be like
Yes,
laughing on their way down. Am I far off?
110%. That's
Far
exactly how
off
I see it.
or good?
Oh
That's
no, no,
exactly
it's
how to say it. Oh,
110%. That you're not far off at all.
okay.
Like I definitely see that. And something that I find really interesting about what you just said, like the Joker and whatnot. The Joker is the way that he is because of the experiences that he had to go through. And they were
Mm,
all pretty toxic, really painful experiences. He chose to be evil, like not evil, but he chose to be manipulative. He chose to be bad. Um, I personally, I resonate with it, but I decide to be good. I decide to do good
wow.
things instead of doing those bads. But I'm a firm believer is that the capacity of the bad that's been done to you, have that same capacity to do good. The level of and then some
Mm.
more is just my
Well, I mean,
mindset on that.
loosely related, they say, I mean, most of us are literally just a few choices away from switching places with someone in prison. Like most people that go to prison just get caught doing shit a lot of us do. It's probably a really bad thing to
Absolutely.
admit, but I think people would acknowledge that.
No,
Yeah.
110%. And we always think that life is so separated, but in reality, there's just the greatest illusion of life is the illusion of separation. And the things that we think are so polar opposites typically are not so far apart from one another.
Go
It's a
on.
full circle in my opinion.
Go on. Tell me more about that.
Well, so I mean, I can think of this. So, I mean, I come from the political space. Before this, I worked in the congressional space to be specific. I something that I don't want to get political either, but I've noticed a lot of trends where someone will support. I just saw a post today. It was like the greatest choice a woman can make is becoming a mother, and I read that sentence and I was like, the greatest choice. So it was a pro choice movement. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
pro life. It was a pro life movement. But it was, and I read that and I was like, do you guys see the
Are you not
irony
reading what
in
you're writing?
no, but do you see the irony in like you have
Yeah.
one belief and in reality it's like it's so extreme sometimes where you're kind of like, wait a minute. These are actually pretty similar. And
Mm.
that's kind of how I personally see life and like I see a lot of like the good and the bad and yin and yang is super it resonates with my soul.
Interesting. So now that's making a lot more sense about your book, how we talked about in your interview today about um, how we're like you and I were kind of both extremes, one or the other, and then the mind shift for you was why can't you be both? And so two
Hmm.
things can be true. Um, I love that a lot. Uh, yeah, I'd love to hear that excerpt.
These are just two paragraphs from what I've been writing. And this is more in I don't know if this is going to go in the book itself. I had to write my inspiration story before I wrote my introduction. And so this is kind of a bit from that. So as a natural extrovert, I'm surprisingly not alone very often. When you are alone, it can be fairly easy to call up a friend or family member, go outside to the park, or anything in between. When you feel lonely, now that goes much deeper and is significantly harder to quote unquote fix, especially when you feel lonely in your experiences or because it's something that you can't change about yourself. I'm here to share my story and share the story of others who've experienced this feeling of loneliness, not only because of visible characteristics, but because of what they've been through. The people in this book have all experienced pain, suffering, and grief. And although this has shaped who they are, each has taken an opportunity to create something more.
I want to get to
Sorry.
know that author.
Sorry about the cops in the background. I don't know if you can hear it.
Sound the alarm. This book is on fire.
And that author is me.
Wow. Yeah, I would love to meet that author. I would devour that book. I will devour that book when it's out. Wow.
You're going to be in the book.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Unless you edit me out. Just knock on wood. Just kidding.
Knock, knock.
Knock, knock. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for writing it. And it makes sense now. That brings it full circle to the Icarus too, because you're like, of all the circumstances you had, Joker chose one way, but you're choosing another. And what is that? Is that a daily thing? Like what was like the first decision that led this off for you? What would you say?
Yeah, I've been working on this book journey for a few years now. And when I had initially started it, it was during COVID because, COVID hit, had nothing better to do. And I just knew I wanted to be creative. And I was also placed in I had to go back home, which was the place where that really negative energy had started from childhood. And so I knew I had to take all that energy that I had and do something about it. And so initially when I started writing, it was because I was born in another country and English is my second language. So I've always been insecure about writing. And I was like, you know what? We're going to write a book or we're going to write some stories. And then I came across this program that, set you up. It was free. It was for students. And I was like, I'm a student. Maybe we'll just try this out. And that's where I met with an editor for the first time. I had those conversations, learned about what it takes to write a story. And then I was like, okay, well, then let's just do it. So I started.
And this is all during COVID?
This is all during COVID, first few months of COVID. I really had nothing better to do, like as no one else did either. And I ended up writing about women running for office because I realized that something that was very important to me is leadership. I want to run for office. And I thought, why not learn for women that have run from office? Because I am a woman. And I really tried to hone in on women, people of color, immigrants, first generations, all those qualities that I saw in myself. I wanted to find and seek others that have done what I want to do. Had fantastic interviews, but then I realized that I was highlighting all of these successes and I was neglecting the part of me, little Anika, that was saying like, well, what about everything else we went through? Like, or were you just going to neglect that part of your story? It took me 2.5 years to realize this. And it wasn't until recently, the Third Door event, actually, the conference that you and I had met at, Alex asked us, what makes you feel alive? And after hearing that, I realized, I'm like, it makes me feel alive to talk about my struggles and then to do something about it, to create more, to take that energy and do more with it. And so that's kind of very long way of putting how I got to where I am today with my book.
Wow. Kudos to you for pivoting. One, props to that. Well, no, first, kudos for starting and rewind. That is all amazing. But I want to back up real quick to when you just simply said, so I decided to write a book. Like, When you said I had to do something with it, one, how did you inherently know you had to do something with it as opposed to letting it feed it longer, or unless that was just like I've had enough moment. But um yeah, that's what I want to that's what I'm really curious about before I
Yeah,
ask about the other stuff.
absolutely. And I think that doing something with it is something that we all do, whether we realize it or not. So, as things happen to us, like experiences happen, often you hear that people don't regret the actual event, they regret what they did afterwards. Whether it be, and let me give you an example. Um, let's say that you had gotten cheated on, and then the next thing that you do is go out to drink and then hook up with like people, right? That's an event that happened. The event itself is painful, but usually it's what you do after the event that causes you a bit more of those like mental blocks. And uh, sorry, I live in Hawaii, so if you hear the jets, it's because we live right next to the military base.
No
A lot of
worries, no worries.
distractions, but and so I think
So it's the
that doing
response.
something, so it's a response, right? And
Yeah.
I think doing something about it is a response. And a lot of my life, I've done a lot of bad things, in my opinion, as a response to not being able to properly heal, properly understand, or not being able to articulate how I'm feeling, right? And I think that when I got back home, I realized that I had this my cup was full, and it was falling over. My mental health was declining. I'm an extrovert. We're all forced to stay at home. What are we going to do now? And I knew I had a decision to make. It was either going to be, and I couldn't drink. I couldn't drink at home. My parents are very strict. I couldn't,
Mm.
I couldn't go
Were you dependent
outside,
on
and
alcohol at that point? Or
I
no?
wouldn't say I was dependent on alcohol, but I knew it to be a substance that I
Mm.
could release with. I just
I'm sorry if
knew that
that's
it
a really
wasn't an
like loaded
option.
question. I feel
Oh,
comfortable asking that because I've
I
been
mean,
dependent on alcohol. I'm so
I was
sorry
I
about that.
was I was addicted to opioids. I can talk about that too. It's in my book, right? And
Wow.
there's
Okay.
I mean, I know the difference between, that's why I was saying I was independent, because I know the difference for myself
Wow.
between like an addiction versus something that I just use as like uh as a release in a way. But I knew that I couldn't count on the substances or the people or the actions that I took on a daily basis. And I realized I was like, okay. And that's where I picked up like embroidery. That's where I picked up painting. That's where I picked up these types of arts
Mm.
that I was never good at. I was always a tech kid. I was always a science kid. I was never good at in the art classes. I was never good at anything creative. And then I decided, all right, well, let's be creative. Let's see how bad you really are. And then I've discovered
I
that I
love that.
freaking
See how
love
bad you are.
it. Yeah.
So yeah, you do a lot. You said you did embroidery, you do some painting. What all? Yeah. So which one did you cling to, and what? I don't know. I've only ever written. So like, what was that like?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, and cooking. I did a lot of different types of
Mm.
cooking. I made my own kombucha. I made my own dumplings. I love I love cooking in general. So I did a whole range of things. I think that embroidery stuck because it's something that I can do while it allows me to think. So
Mm.
if I have a mental block with my writing, I'll just embroider for maybe like 30 minutes, and I already have new material. It's the same concept of just driving endlessly, so you can get things processed in your
Okay.
brain. Same
Just
idea.
saving gas
Yep.
money.
Hmm.
um,
Saving gas money, embroider.
so you mentioned something about the substance, knowing the difference between dependence and using, and that's really funny because that's a conversation I've been really hungry to have.
Yeah.
And I have, so I'm sure you could relate to this, but for the longest time, so I've smoked weed for a little while, and for the longest time, I've made myself feel guilty about it. Like, oh, you shouldn't be smoking this much, or blah blah. And and then I'm like, well, it grounds me. It helps me write. It helps me focus on
Hmm.
this and that. And so, like we've been saying, we're extremes. I'm either like have it all, never do it or always do it. And so what, yeah, with that being said, if you can give some of what your insight is on dependence versus being like a healthy way to cope.
Yeah. Well, so
And not even
I'm
to
not
cope, but create. Is it a bad thing to be
create.
dependent on
Yeah.
that to create? Also,
No. So I'll start with dependency in general. I'm not an expert. I'm not a professional. I'm not a medical professional. Nothing I say is that's my disclaimer is nothing I say is fact. It's just my experience. And I will say dependency in general, it's easy to say, but I need this, or but this helps me with this and that and that. It's super easy to say. And sometimes it's okay. Like sometimes I do need a glass of wine after work because I just had a long day. But when it became a problem when it was the only thing I was doing, and then it caused me to, because I mean it's okay to have a glass of wine one night, and then Tuesday night, let's say I go to yoga, and then Wednesday I go for a walk. Like there's a difference between that versus like, ooh, had a bad day today, had a bad day again, had another bad day, and you see what I mean? It's patterns. It's consciously deciding. But I think it became a problem when, for me in particular, when you start, they do say marijuana is a gateway drug, for example, right? I personally was prescribed oxycodone when I had my first ACL surgery at 16. I got
first
60 pills.
ACL surgery?
First, I had 2. And I would say I am very proud to say my second surgery, which was 2 years ago, actually got off of crutches. COVID hit. That was the week that I got off of crutches. So I was still in the leg brace. And it sucked because I was already going through a depression and then we hit COVID. Anyways, I am very happy to say I did not touch a single one of the pills that were re-prescribed to me 2 years ago versus when I was 16. And I not only had those 60, but I had more than that because we would start trying to find ways to get more. And that's when it became a problem because an addiction is fine. No, it's not fine. Addiction isn't fine. But it was fine until it became something that I really started doing. And then I started doing with the people around me. And then I started mixing alcohol and opioids. And it just became a cycle. It was a cycle. And the worst part about it was I was in 5 honor societies. I had done literally 4 AP classes my senior year. I was playing lacrosse. I was playing field hockey. I was in musical productions and drama productions all throughout I just never stopped. But my mental health was deteriorating. Wow. My body was deteriorating. And I just wasn't taking care of myself.
Is your work ethic a response too? Or is that just all work ethic?
Is work ethic a response as in like an action? Or what do you mean?
Also like a coping mechanism. Because you know some people will turn to their work and ignore themselves. Oh, yeah. Do you think you incorporate any of that into it, or is that just your ambition?
I used to 110%. I used to just wouldn't care about anything, everything. My first few relationships, I think, ended because of like how much work I put into my other things versus like the relationship itself. And that, I mean, that's a whole nother story, but yeah, 100% I can work all day, every day, but I do not thankfully do that anymore.
Wow. So all of this thank you for sharing all of that. How did this play a role into leading you to your book? And we never even mentioned the title of your book, if you want to mention what your book is and the project.
Absolutely. The book is titled The Only in the Room. And it's because I felt like the only person in a room because of, honestly, a lot of my experiences, from the addictions to the trauma, the abuse, from like physical abuse to sexual abuse to, and I could keep going. It comes from the notion of feeling like I've been the only because of those experiences.
Wow. I love that concept. The only in the room. It's something everyone can relate to.
Exactly.
And even if it's different rooms, like you and I, like me and someone else could be thinking of completely different rooms, but we still feel like we're the only ones in the room, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And the book is not honing in on that feeling in particular. It's about feeling that and transforming into something else and creating something from it.
Creating your own room.
Creating your own room, creating a room that other people can join in to. Mostly, I'm focused on connection.
What have you learned since you've started the project?
That's a great question. I would say, I think you've already just said it, is it's a feeling that everyone can relate to, which, I didn't think I don't think I'm creating something that's never been existed before. I've been searching book by book to find a word for this feeling. I just bought the book called Obscure Sorrows. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Wow. No, sounds like my book though.
It's a book that was written by John Coing. He searched years to find definitions for words that didn't exist in the English language. So and as someone who speaks different languages, and you also speak another language, and so do I, there are some words that I can't articulate feelings for in English, but I can in another language. And so the book itself goes through that. I've been searching days. Every day I'll try to find just one Google search on if I could find the emotion that I experienced the only in the room. I've not been able to find something that relates to it. So they have loneliness as a definition.
Well, you're good at using two different words. What if you combined. What if there's like an arena of two words? What would you do? Like, would it be like isolation and loneliness?
But it's not, because you're not isolated, and you're in a crowd.
True. Very true. Very true.
You're in your head. Isolated. Yes, you're emotionally isolated, and I wouldn't. Wow. And so trust me, I haven't.
I'm not limiting it to that either.
No, I get it, and I haven't found something yet, and I'm excited. I know as I continue, the more conversations I have, the closer I'm getting to it. But I know I'm just it's gonna click one day. And
well, in general, English, from what I understand, lacks a lot of words that come from a lens of community and compassion. To be quite honest, and these intense. I've heard of other words in other countries that mean various versions of helping someone in mourning or helping someone grieving. It's like it's that minute. So I believe it. I believe it. How do you think the language influences the way you think? With that being said, is there a close word for that in the language you speak? What else do you speak?
So I speak a few languages. My first language is Bengali. I've been doing French for about 10 years, so I can get by. I also growing up, I learned Arabic. That's just because my parents are Muslim, reading the Quran. I learned a little bit of ASL in college. I learned Nepali just this last year, and I'm learning Japanese right now. So I love languages. You can't
find one word. All those languages, you can't find one word. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm telling you, I know. I just know that I'm gonna find something one day, and I it's not English's fault, to be honest. It's just the language. The countries that speak English are more individualistic countries.
Yeah.
Whereas, coming from Bangladesh, they're collectivistic. Even you think of if I were to say "How are you," I wouldn't say "How are you" in Bangla. It would roughly translate to "You are how," and that's pretty common in a lot of languages. It's the person or the noun is the first, and so it's just it's different. But I know one day, I know I will find something. It's not
and
the time yet. And I didn't mean to
just dismiss quickly how many languages you learned. That was incredible. That's awesome. Congratulations on that accomplishment.
Thank you.
So it's not only that it's a cultural differences as well. It's a generational difference as well, because the kind of loneliness feeling, I don't even want to put loneliness to it because you said it's not loneliness, but whatever feeling of it is of the only in the room is also influenced by the technology and age that we are in today that no other time period would be able to relate to. So it really is a completely foreign feeling in existence.
Absolutely. And it sucks. It sucks that we are entering this, phase where we're so hyper connected, but then we're so not at the same. And here we go with the extremes again, right? We're always on, but how close do you feel to the people? I mean, I think we put an effort into like connecting with people, but how close do you feel to the people that you're just watching the reels of, or checking their stories out? It's like, wow, they did a cool thing, but then you forget about it 20 seconds later.
It's very temporary. And what's really dangerous, I already had a negative relationship with my phone, but now after like starting this and starting its own accounts, it's like, I'm on it even more now. And I think we talked about this in that last call we had, but it's like, I'm going to need to figure this out before this gets even worse going forward, What have you done to like limit that or to combat it?
So I think more recently, so first and foremost, this is something that I've always done is if it doesn't add value to me, as in like happiness, and that's how I see value is, does it make me happy? If it doesn't add happiness, remove it. So same with, I'm not a very cluttered person. I'm pretty nomadic in my lifestyle because I look at something, whether it be a shirt or a book, or it's usually books that I have a lot of actually. So I'm not a cluttered person, but I do have a lot of books.
Yeah, same.
I look at something and I'm like, does this bring me joy? Does this bring me happiness? Does this bring me a purpose? If it doesn't, I don't need it. And then same goes for the people I follow on Instagram. It's, do these people, are they putting information out that I think is very important to me or I resonate with, or is it just kind of like negative talk, or just like making fun of something or someone? Like, I don't like that. Am I one to love memes? Yeah, 100%. Do I follow meme accounts? Yeah, 100%. But it's just more like limiting what you're intaking, because people also do the extremes where like they'll like just be like, I'm going to delete the app altogether. How long does it take for them to just re-download it again a few months later? Because you forget the feelings that you felt when you were feeling like shit, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the same notion. We always try to like extreme response rather than moderate what we're consuming.
Wow. So when you say if it brings you value or not, is that if it brings you joy, is that something that became new when you began to kind of like start these projects, or when you began or is that something that came with like your journey of healing? And what would you say kickstarted your journey of healing?
So the decluttering stuff, I can't take any credit for. It's Marie Kondo's book. I think it's The Art of Decluttering. I can't remember the actual name. So that's something that Kondo. Thank you. Yeah. So Marie Kondo, The Art of Decluttering, or something along that line.
Yeah.
That's where I first heard about it. And that's kind of where it's just stuck with me. So I can't take any credit for my ability to declutter. But the process of healing, I mean, realistically, it started as soon as when I was young, right? It had to have been like when I was like 4. And I think that the actual intentional process of healing for me started probably when I started therapy in like 9th grade. I wouldn't say, and it's not like I wanted to do it. So I think it was only recently in the last year or so that I really now full-heartedly place so much emphasis on my healing and myself that I've never done in the past. But it's a lifelong thing.
Yeah, no, it's not like one day we're just going, I'm healed.
Yeah, I'm healed. Can you imagine?
Give me a beard. So you mentioned that you have several different outlets that you've explored with. How I'm curious how those factor in to the way you go through the motions of living.
Yeah.
I imagine it's like, with people, it says it takes a village a lot of times. And that's like the feeling I'm getting with all of these different methods you have.
Absolutely. And I'm an active person. I love being outdoors. I live in Hawaii, right? So I chose to, I mean, this was just a random move, but and I never left, but I
That's
chose to move
awesome.
out here, and everything here is it's family oriented, or there's just so much beauty in nature that I think those two, being with nature, I think is the biggest outlet for me. It's just like, instead of, it's like how plants give you oxygen, right? It's your
Mm.
opportunity to go out in nature and breathe in not only that oxygen but that energy from, now I feel like I'm getting super like yogi. um but they give you energy, and that the sunshine. And like, my last name means sunshine in Farsi.
Oh,
So, and I love it. I love taking in sunshine. And I'm an active person, so I love yoga. I play volleyball on Thursdays. I play different sports. Sports have always been central to me. And I also write. I embroider, cook. I love to cook. That always makes me happy. So,
um, for your writing, what first inspired you to start writing,
COVID.
and what kind of
So
writing
during,
did you start?
yeah,
Was it just
so
like regular
during,
journaling? Sorry.
I've always journaled. No, no, you're good. You're good. I'd never let you finish. Journaling, journaling is something that I did just, when I was younger. And then it was COVID where, like I said, I never been good at writing. And so I wanted to see if I could do it, because I was always so insecure about my English, and especially because the sentence structure was so different. Like, you are how versus how are you, and trying to write that
Yeah, it's
out.
it's reverse.
Yeah.
It's reverse.
So that was my inspiration just to start, is because I knew I wasn't going to be good at it.
Um, being an extrovert, was it very difficult for you to start writing, or not even
Why
just
would
writing, but like to be internal, to spend some time with yourself? Like, yeah,
That is a very funny question, because so I'm curious. Can I ask you a question?
of course.
How do you define introversion and extroversion?
I think I heard this on TED Talk or YouTube video somewhere, but I define it as what you gain energy from. Like, do you receive
That's
energy from being alone, or do you receive energy from being with others?
110%. That's the definition. I'm so happy you said it, because that's exactly what I was about to say.
Pass the
And
test.
as an extrovert, I have always loved people, and I've always loved what people have brought out in me. It wasn't until recently, and now I live alone, thankfully, I can say that I've always been me. I just also love people. And so with my writing journey, I think that I always liked writing. I loved writing those stories. I'm an academic. I have to write.
Mm,
It's just papers and all of that. It very much thoroughly enjoyed. It wasn't until I realized that it's all in me. It's within me, but there's people just bring it out, and I'm okay with it. Like, I love that some
mm,
people inspire me to go home and write a book. And just like how you talk about your poetry, after you and I talked like a few weeks ago, you told me that you wrote a poem on losing friends because of the conversation we had. It's
yeah.
kind of the same thing for me, but it's just in a different sense. I also want to point out it's 222, which the angel number means friendship, and like, it means that you're aligned. I just want to say I'm putting that out there. It means it's the sign of like friendship and deep connection.
Is it? I don't know what the angel numbers mean, but I get them a lot.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to digress from the first thing, but I can tell you very quickly about what angel numbers are too.
Let's go into that, because so I had a really like this. This is how this really random one just happened out of nowhere. This happened a couple of weeks ago. I told you about the butterflies, and so I'm part of a men's group, and we meet once a month virtually.
Hmm.
And I went for a walk on the last call, and someone was talking about just like how they're being more intentional about living out with Earth. And anyways, I'm walking, and then randomly in his speech, or when he was sharing, he brought up monarchs and milkweed and their migration, just randomly talking about natures and animals. but the reference was only within like the 11:11 time. Like right when it was 11:11, he mentioned Monarchs, Milkweed, or whatever. And then it was never brought up again. And that was the day I told you I decided not to go to Mexico. And so that was like, oh shit, like maybe I should go to Mexico after all, because that was like October 30th, October 31st, around there. So I went super last minute.
That was days before.
Yeah, no, when I went, I bought my ticket
Wow.
8 hours before I left.
Oh my goodness.
And so
that's amazing.
well, I'm glad you receive it that way, and I do too, but maybe that's something I can talk about too with you, with angel numbers and synchronicities and coincidences. Is there a point you can get too lost into it and you're like, what the fuck? Like, I think because I'm extreme, sometimes I'll get too lost in the joy, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is all gonna work out, and it's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? And so lately I've just had a very love-hate relationship, like, and I've been writing a lot of poems about it, and I can't figure it out of like, what is a sign? Do you have to follow the sign? What does it mean? What do you do? You know what I mean? So I just want your take with it. And if we can go over what all the angel numbers are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to tell you one of my favorite books is called The Art of Thinking Clearly.
Oh.
So I am a logic person. I am not a feeler. I am a very organized, color-coded individual, type A, 110%. Probably get that from the work that I do. However, my personality, I love to be like lovey-dovey, and like I want to tell you how sometimes I've worked so hard on it, right? It makes me so uncomfortable sometimes, but I want to tell you how I'm feeling. Something that I just didn't used to do. So now the book, The Art of Thinking Clearly, is like a 200-page book on all the human biases that exist and why we don't think as clearly as we think we do. And I love that book because it is the most grounding book to me. And one of my favorite parts of the book is confirmation bias. So if you tell yourself, if I look for the number 222 and it means friendship, and I only see it with the people that I love or like I care about or I have connection with, you're going to start seeing the number 222 when you're talking to people that you find that connection with. You will also, same goes for like anything else. If you're like, I want to see like a red bus, you're going to see a red bus eventually. And then you're going to be like, oh my gosh, the universe let me see it. So I have that perspective and it allows me to moderately take in the universe, because the extreme side of me wants to just jump in and be like, it's a sign. I saw 222 with David. It means that this is meant to be and I'm supposed to be here. Yeah, I can say that. A part of me sometimes does. Like, that's completely, and it's okay. Like, some days I do believe that this is the world. The universe is there for me. And but the problem is when it doesn't work out, that's when we start blaming. The universe doesn't it's like, what did I do wrong? Why am I not getting the blessings that I was getting 2 days ago? Why is everything happening all together? It's like, no, all of it is coincidence. Your brain is just making patterns of it, because that's what the human brain does. My undergrad, I was pre-med, I did neuroscience. So I studied neuroscience and I love healthcare. I can talk all about it. But so when it comes to science, personally, I understand the people that are like, let's just jump all in, immerse yourself in the world and take it as it is. And I'm like, yeah, I would, but I'm a science person. I'm a tech person. I need logic with it. And so for me, I need to have the science and the spirituality, like the beauty of everything, the universe.
Wow. The opposites really are just the essence of who you are.
110%.
But see, I'm still conflicted because like I said, I'll get lost in it. But then even when you and I were talking for your interview, you're like, wow, clearly you can see the universe is working for you. And so I'm like, okay, so I hear this from people, and maybe it's because of the way I'm projecting it. Like, I could be lying about my life, and you're like, this guy's a great storyteller.
Could be.
Yeah. And so I don't know. That's just been very heavy on my mind. And I was just in Mexico, and it was a magical experience, but it was also a very grounding and humiliating experience, because I got lost into like the poetry of life, like I was saying, and got into this big idea of like, this trip is going to give me all the answers I've ever needed, you know? And so like, I just crumbled under those expectations. And so I'm like, what the fuck are all these signs and why am I even following them? And so, but then like, you know, damn right, like that's where you should be. I don't even know if I'm making any sense, but it's been a pain point a lot. And I'm very interested in what you have to say about it.
Yeah. The universe doesn't go on our pace. You know, time is a social construct. Right now it's 2:00 and it's not 4:00 for you. But
True.
4 weeks ago, it would have been a 3-hour time difference. We created time. So we try to put these human aspects onto things that are celestial, you know, and I don't know if you believe in God. I don't know if you believe in animals. Like, I don't know. It doesn't matter what you believe in. But the truth is we don't understand how the universe works at what pace it works at. So when we do start seeing signs, it doesn't necessarily mean it could be 15 altogether, and that's just how the burst of the universe works. Or maybe it's one over a few weeks, or maybe it's through butterflies for you. Maybe it's through numbers for me because I'm a numbers person. Like, and it's just different ways. And I just, you know, I don't have expectations for the universe because I can't. I don't even know what the universe is. I don't know if it's, you know, a female in heaven, or if it's like my little dog that I don't have yet. Like, you know, it's just
at the end of the day, it's whatever helps us sleep at night.
It is, and it is, and then at the end of the day, just I don't put any expectations on it. I don't hope that it does something for me. I let it do its own thing, and it just sometimes it aligns, sometimes it doesn't. And then everything in between is my life.
You're the and in between the extremes.
And the two extremes. Be the and in between the extremes.
I think we strayed too far there. That's my
a little
fault.
bit. But I will tell you really quickly what angel numbers are.
Yeah.
Have you read the Bible? Yeah,
I grew up in the Christian church.
So
I've never read it beginning to end, but yes, I grew up reading the Bible.
So, like, for example, like the Trinity, right? Or any numbers in general have a lot of emphasis biblically. Angel numbers are kind of the similar concept, but when you see repetition of them, it is a sign from the angels that you're aligned with the universe. Personally, I don't know if it's a sign from the angels, in my opinion. Do I believe in God? Yes. We don't have to get into all that. But I would say that for me, it's just how things speak to me. Like, I see numbers and it makes sense to my head. Once again, it's confirmation bias.
That's
right?
What you're looking for. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's what I'm looking for. And so, and it turns out okay for me. When I see like certain numbers, I know it means certain things, and it confirms to me that I'm on the right path. But deep down is what really confirms to me that I'm on the right path.
And how often, when you're on the right path and you know you're on the right path, how often do you face doubt, and how do you combat it? And when I say doubt, I mean like imposter syndrome and wanting to give up or quit.
Every day. 100% every day, like not every second of the day. There are some good days, some bad days. But I mean, I just saw something from Alex Benayan. I don't know if you saw his post about doubt.
I shared it and like wrote a little.
Oh, I was gonna say it was you. It was you that shared it. Okay, I was gonna say.
And I was like, that's what happens when I share on Instagram before journaling.
No, 100%. That's exactly how you put it. It was perfect. And how Alex put it, it means you're doing something. You're doubtful means you're growing. It means that you're challenging yourself. And so, doubt. And
it's one stop.
I'm a firm believer in having both emotions. Right? You can be doubtful, but also be successful, do things that are scary, and be successful in doing them. So
yeah. I don't know. Since I want to bring it back to your project of the Only in the Room, even though we've still been talking about that. But how often do you still feel that way? Do you still feel like, or is it about you're just more intentional the rooms you go in?
I think a combination of both. Well, not both. I am more intentional about a lot of the rooms I go into. I would also say that it's been less and less the more I talk about it, because I just notice more and more people, more and more people are like, yeah, wait, I felt that too. And that was the hardest part of my life. Like, what I've had to go through is dealing with that on my own, like that feeling. And I'm like, me too. That's why I'm writing this book. And I think the more and more I've realized that. And then second, I've started realizing, like, I've been really in tune with how I feel when I'm with certain groups of people. As an extrovert, I do get my energy from people, but I never notice that certain people actually don't give me energy. They actually take energy from me. And I've been more and more like, unfortunately cutting people off. Losing friends. And we've talked about this too, where I used to feel guilty, but now I'm like, well, I'm not giving you my 100%. Why would I feel bad about, removing myself from the relationship altogether? Because they have now room to form new relationships. And so, yeah.
Damn. And so how, you don't have to answer, but I guess, like, what is your process of doing that? Is it like kind of quiet quitting, like what we talked about? Or is it just like what do you tell someone when you're breaking up with a friend, or you're breaking up with the kind of friendship you used to have?
I think moving across the country to Hawaii, 6,000 miles away, I've realized who I want to stay in touch with and who my real friends are. And that's okay. Like, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not, and if anyone's listening, don't be offended. But it's also a two-way street, right? It's since I've moved, who has reached out to me, who has checked in, and vice versa. Like, I'm not perfect with it. I don't always respond when I need to, and I don't always, reach out when I want to. It's just, I have made an intentional effort to keep in touch with the people that I care most about. And the ones that I haven't spoken to them since I moved last October.
Wow. And you can, when you're so intentional with keeping those kinds of relationships and friendships, you can tell right away when something just doesn't feel like it has any substance. You're like, why are we talking?
Yeah.
That probably sounds really bad, but there's a lot of times 100%. I think people feel things. It's kind of like the sunk cost fallacy. It's like, oh, well, we've been talking so long. It's like, dude, we're bonding over the same memory 12 years ago. Like,
yes. Oh my gosh. You should read the book. They talk about the sunken cost fallacy. I love that book.
Your book?
Hasn't been. No, the book, the
Art of Thinking Clearly?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But no, absolutely. And but I will be honest, with this perspective that we have, it's hard to create new relationships too. Because if you go into one and you're like, oh, you're not as deep as like my third door friends or like all this, you're never going to have new friends ever.
Well,
and so
you know what?
Once again,
I'll keep going.
I was going to say, once again, don't live in the extremes of like try to find what the middle ground is.
That conference is still being very fruitful for me, the Third Door Conference in July, just because of the amount of branched off connections and friendships I have now. Like, I just went to an event last night in LA. I don't even live there anymore. I drove a few hours, and at that event that someone there hosted, I met like 3 or 4 new people that I'm going to be seeing like next month.
Really?
Yeah. And I guess that's what being in Hawaii, that is hard to do. But so how do you stay connected in Hawaii? Are you relying on these virtual connections, or are you kind of just being your extroverted self? And what are those new connections like there? Are they just enough to get you by? And are you surviving off of your virtual connections? Like, what's that like? Because you said it was hard to make new connections.
So we have third doors out here. Very few, but we do have some that were part of the original sessions. Also, I make the joke to all my friends that I will marry someone that has read the book, The Third Door. And I'm just going to wait till the day I find either it's going to be in one of these group things, or it's going to be some random dude in the middle of nowhere that's going to just be like, yeah, me too. But I mean, I do. I feel so blessed to be an extrovert because I find it very easy. Like, so tonight I'm going, none of my friends want to go to this market. I'm just going to go take myself to this night market.
Hell yeah.
And that's okay. That's very comfortable with me. It's something I had to learn to do, like take myself out to dinner, take myself out to like dates and stuff. That's something I've been trying more and more to do. But, I think the people that you're meant to find will come to you because even recently I've met some humans that I adore and they have their door energy. They have not read the book. And I'm like so into like talking to them and I've met them from different walks of life. And so that's just it. Like here locally, I'm saying.
Yeah. How has how has dating changed for you or your views of dating since kind of living your life more intentionally now as far as, you wanted to get the hell out of here, you went to Hawaii, and now you're just being intentional about the people you're with?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I was dating someone recently. We broke up in May, right before the conference, actually. He cheated on me. So that sucked a lot.
Does he know you? Does he know you?
I know.
I
know.
I bet you all his friends are like, you fucking idiot. Like,
well, I mean,
my
he had two
gosh.
other girlfriends, so I'm sure they knew about someone. I don't even know.
I'm so sorry about that.
And it's okay. It sucks. And once again, it's just those experiences that like it really pushes you. And I met you guys literally a month after, and so that put into perspective immediately. I was like, absolutely don't need to worry about meeting new people or finding people that are going to light my soul on fire. That's the kind of energy I need when in a relationship. Not that I didn't have that. It's just, I was like, I need to find someone that deserves me. And recently I've just, like I said, I've been searching for people. And I will say I've been pretty lucky with like finding like individuals that I feel so blessed because I have found individuals that like conversations are just like I would with one of my third door friends. And I don't know, the universe has been blessing me with some love goggles recently.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Like, how they say like something's in the air, like springtime where everyone starts like, just starts dating and like everyone's all giggly and stuff. I feel like recently, like, I think that the dates I've been on, I've just been fantastic. Like I've just really been enjoying them. But I also don't think it's necessarily all on that person. I think it's because I've just been expanding the capacity of love that I have for myself, that now I'm able to just articulate that love out to others. And it's just been absolutely incredible. I've just been having fantastic dates.
That's amazing. I'm happy for you. The other night, I mentioned that to someone in a conversation. They asked me what it was like. They were kind of asking how poetry has changed my life in some ways. And I was like, honestly, it kind of feels like when people say you're in love, and like all the food tastes better, like the sky is brighter and all that. And it's like, that's honestly how it feels, except I'm in love with Earth, and I'm in love with being on Earth, and I'm in love with this opportunity to be here. And so, and I think that might be a little bit of what you're talking about. And when you have that, it obviously naturally will radiate.
110%. That was really well put.
I think you're a poet, dude.
Oh God!
Because
no.
I wanted to mention this earlier. I wanted to mention this earlier when you opened the conversation about the yin and the yang, and that's how, or maybe just because that's my example, but that's how I explain, what being a poet means to me, is that even though I'm not good at walking that walk, but I really try to keep a level head of not getting too lost in the joy or the despair of life. I immediately always see the opposite of something just to kind of balance it out. Except sometimes I get too lost in some heightened joy, then I just keep going. I'm like, oh shoot, I need to come back down. And then so the drop is that much slower. But I really admire and like how you said about just seeing everything as whole, as the yin and the yang.
Absolutely. And I have yin and yang tattooed on my body. Like it's like a whole side piece. I
Really?
it is. It's the koi fish actually. I have
Okay.
with like cherry blossoms. So it goes through like my back and then it's gonna end in my
Wow.
shoulder. But yin and yang have always resonated with my soul from a very just young age. Like first time I heard about it
Interesting.
was Avatar: The Last Airbender. I actually got the koi because of Avatar: The Last Airbender. No joke.
Did you?
I'm a grown woman, and I did, yes, in fact, get the koi fish
Um,
inspired by the
the
show.
I don't I've never watched it, but I think Yuko or whoever Dante Basco,
Uh huh.
if you know, he founded the Poetry Lounge in L.A.
Zuko founded the
Yeah,
poetry
Rufio.
lounge.
Yeah, Rufio. He founded the Poetry Lounge. He's a co-founder of
Oh,
it.
see, things just align. That's amazing. That's awesome. Oh my gosh, I want to go visit. That's so cool. I
Next time you come down, let's
Yeah,
go.
I would love to. But no, yin and yang has always resonated with my soul because I see myself like I see the all the good that I do. I still see parts of bad within me, and it's not and
Mm.
all the bad that I've done. I still see the good. It's not you you know. It's just that's just how life is. It doesn't have to be a good or bad thing. It's just a thing, and all the things
Yeah,
are connected.
yeah. Like you mentioned earlier, life is inherently meaningless. It's humans that put meaning to it, and I mean that's what we're kind of here to do for the most part, or not. I'm curious if you have an example of uh, what is something how you looked at yin and yang as a child that maybe most children do not.
Yeah, I that's a great question. Growing up, I experienced a lot of like trauma. Like so at a young age, like one of the first few memories that I have is, waking up passed out because I had just gotten hit so hard. I was 4 years old. Like that's not how 4 year olds are supposed to have experience like memories. And as I work more with my therapist through these experiences, I'm planning on doing like EMDR and just other experiences to like work through and fully remember a lot of the experiences because something with trauma is it's not like a linear memory. It's usually like bursts of like images or sounds or experiences and so for me, I think growing up the craziest thing and something yin and yang for me was the fact that I was the most happy, talkative child ever. Like, I mean, look at all my report cards. And good thing I'm doing podcasting now because um, the one comment I always got was, "Way she talks way too much," but she's a social butterfly, so it's okay. And so for me, like, that yin yang was having these dark experiences, knowing it was wrong, but also choosing to just be happy and just be a person and like who I was. My mom shaved my head when I was in sixth grade. So going into my middle school, it was just so my hair would grow back thicker. It wasn't like a malicious
Hmm.
reason. And I remember in particular, like going into seventh grade, so many people thought I had cancer, first of all, because they didn't, and like, however old you are at seventh grade, you see a child without hair and you're like, oh, this person actually has a disease or something. Like, a few of my best friends have told me that, like when I was younger, they were like, yeah, we thought you had cancer and, we just didn't want to talk to you because we were scared. But I remember, despite all of that, I was still the happiest child. Like I was always looking to make friends. I was always looking to play some sports and like just talk to people. And people would be like, oh, what is she doing? And that's never changed. And I think that's an example of me and like having that
Wow.
balance from a young age.
Damn, you're a courageous ass kid. um, I'm curious. You said you've been going to therapy for this. But like outside of that, how has having these different artistic expressions or even writing about it, um how has that helped? Or
Yeah.
is there a particular type of expression you've had that helps a little bit more?
Depends on what I'm feeling, right? Like sometimes
Mm.
I'm just like, I want to box, which I've been boxing I did martial arts for most of my life. And then after the ACL tears, I did boxing. Sometimes I need to like let out that energy in like
Mm-hmm.
in a more aggressive way. Other times I'm like, I have pent up energy. It's all in my brain. I just need to like let it flow slowly without the pressure. So that's where embroidery comes in, right? It's like doing a menial task and then letting my brain just relax a little. And then other things like even just going out with friends. I love being social. I love dancing. I love all of that. Sometimes I just need to stop thinking altogether because I just have too much energy. And that's where like going out with friends comes in. It's like you gotta find what works for you, you know?
Oh
Uh,
man, that sounds awesome. So I wanted to ask you a question, but it's funny because I think you've been answering it this whole time. But it's kind of like where you have you've done so much. Like it feels like you've lived so many lives so far, and just so many different things that you've been revealing. And so I was curious of like where is all of this kind of going or culminating into, with your project, with your Women in Tech podcast that you're co-hosting, your neurosurgery background of study.
I wish I was
Um
neurosurgery. Yeah.
no, but your field of study in that. Um you're not you said you kind of pivoted from the Congress mission, and now with this the only in the room. So essentially, I was going to try to trap you and be like, where is all of this going or what do you see it going? But listening to you talk about your whole life, it sounds like, no, you're always going to have so many different things going on just because that's what brings you so much joy.
Did you answer my question? Was that rhetorical?
I think so.
I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I wanted to tell you that was the other perception I got from it. So I wanted to be upfront about that was what I was observing.
I'll tell you what my goals are, right? My goals next 5-6 years, I want to finish my PhD. I'm only applying to one school. I would love to get my PhD in primary care at Oxford, like the University of Oxford. That's the goal. After that, I would love to have I would love to continue my podcast, once my book is published. I would love to have a nonprofit. I was born in a developing country, and something that's really important to me is educating young women to become financially free so they are able to, escape situations they might necessarily not have had the opportunity to do so. So I want to work in that space. I mean, I've worked in Honduras and Guatemala. I've done medical brigades there, nonprofit consulting there. I've lived in Europe for periods of time. And I international has always been a focus for me. If I could do work with the UN, that would be amazing. I would love to. And then ultimately, I want to continue to help the healthcare space in America. We have some serious issues that are not talked about enough. And my master's was in like systems learning and health policy. How can we create better policies so people don't have to struggle? How can we be more efficient in our take, more emotional but logical, and like have all those, and I will run for office one day. That is 110% something that I will do. And I pray that one day I can be Congresswoman Aftab, and
Wow.
that would be one of my other like ultimate goals. But I know after that, I'm still going to be like, I kind of want to be an adjunct professor. I kind of want to, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want if you want to. And so, yes, those are all my goals. Are they crazy ambitious? Yeah.
Move closer.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I know those are crazy goals and I know they're crazy ambitious, but why not? If I don't say it now, and if 95% of the stuff doesn't happen, then it didn't happen. Then I'm sure I'll be wherever else I'm supposed to be. But right now, those are my goals.
Wow. I commend you so much. I've always been very envious of people who have dreamed that big in so many ways. Like dreaming like that is something very new to me. And I'm dreaming very small. And so part of like what I'm doing in this transition period is like really trying to be more intentional of learning what to dream.
And I think that having small goals are actually really important because something that's an internal goal for me is honestly making sure that I wash my face every morning and every night. Am I good with that? no, I sometimes don't wash my face before I go to bed. It's kind of gross, but honestly, it's like sometimes you need to have, like, I don't have those things together, and that's something that I need to like work on so I can get those larger goals and other goals. It's like I want to continue to give back to my community, like small things, like how can I experience other people's emotions, like in different circumstances. Like it doesn't have to be save the world kind of mindset. That's not realistic, because if I lived only like that, I probably wouldn't get anything done, because I'd just be living in dreaming all in the clouds, you know?
Yeah.
Versus like working on like little things here and there, and then trying to create that consistency and routine.
I have one follow-up question on that, and I think it would be a very good closing question. But I have one more follow-up question before that on dating, just because I'm curious. Listing, like, as ambitious as you are, I'm sure you've intimidated a lot of people. And so with this new like kind of joy and bliss you're bringing into all of these new encounters, I'm wondering, like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm just like, how are you navigating that? And is it something older. You're not? Yeah.
I date older. I will say that I'm currently at like the 33 range, and I'm okay with it. And honestly, it's because it is a lot of 25-year-old guys. I can't say all of them, because there are some amazing 25-year-olds and younger men that I have encountered that I am like, oh my gosh, what I would do to be with you. Like, you know, and so it's not that. And honestly, age is like, it is literally just a number, in my opinion. But I personally have had a lot more luck older. And I also I find a lot of entrepreneurs that I relate with, and they're less in I've never found both, like where I'm in the academia and entrepreneurship space. Like I've dated like either entrepreneurs or like PhDs. Like there's no in between. And I'm like, yeah, I like it, but I know whoever I'm supposed to be with is out there, and they're going to be the perfect combination of whatever I need. Right now, I'm just kind of taking it as I do, because I've been really focused on whether or not I like the person versus if they're liking me. And like I've been switching my mindset on that. And it was for a long time, because I was insecure that I was making more money or I was doing more than the other person. And once I stopped caring about that, and I'm like, I'm not here to make you feel insecure. I just want to have a relationship with you. Like that's when the pressure of it just stopped, you know? And
wow,
it's been really
I just want to enjoy your company and see who you are as a person.
Yeah. And then some.
Okay. I will go back to the follow-up question I mentioned before. So you're dreaming big. You have all of these big ambitions and these differences that you want to make. And maybe this is a loaded question, but what do you see? All that being said, how do you want to be remembered? Like, what is Anika's legacy? Like, if you could sum that up in a elevator pitch, just shorter. And that's a really hard question, because I don't even know how I would answer that. But
I mean, that's so interesting. That question always comes up, and you know, I've always seen, it's like, what mark are you leaving on the world? I'm like, I don't know. I don't want my name attached to anything. Like, this isn't about me. I'm not doing this for myself. Like, I'm not doing this because I want that, like, tombstone, like not the tombstone, the statue or the building with my name on it. It would be pretty cool, but none of that feels like right to me. It's just, and I personally don't really want children either. So I don't really want to, I'm not passing it down to anyone. It's just, I don't know. My legacy is not going to be my legacy. It's going to be that healthcare policy that was passed because it was so dang good, or it's going to be that like initiative that was created from the book that I write and the words that I find that help teens that are feeling suicidal, for example. Or it's not about me. It's not about what I'm putting out there. I don't think that anyone is able to really leave. I mean, yes, okay, I can't say anyone's not able to leave a legacy, because you think of names like Bill Gates, like that's always going to be there. But I think that the purpose I was put on the earth is to continue things that are already happening and just bring them to whatever finish line before I pass the baton. and not finish line, but it's not a finish line. So whatever next benchmark until the baton is passed, so the race can keep going.
I think that's so apt, considering how we mentioned earlier, like you are trying to define something that is new for this generation and age. And so that's definitely continuing.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be attached to me.
Oh, man. I got one last final question on what you said. And it's because it's something I'm still going back and forth with. And if you don't mind me asking, but what led to your decision to not have children? Because that's something that I feel like half the time I'm for it, and half the time I'm like, no, I'm totally cool without it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the first foremost thing is personally, like with my body, I've gone through a lot of work to like make sure my hormones can stay stabilized, whether it be with what I eat, with the activity that I work on, and everything all in there. I am absolutely terrified that I'm going to, have a child and then something switches, right? That anger that was in me when I was younger, or that shame, that guilt, the pain resurfaces, and then it's displaced and projected onto either my husband or my kids. That would absolutely break my soul. Like I can't fathom, and that risk is always going to be there. I can't say, a lot of people are like, oh, you might not get postpartum depression. I will probably get postpartum depression. I know myself in that way.
Yeah.
But
on that, I've also heard so many people. I've heard so many people say that you do for a fact revisit all of your traumas when you have children. Like that's inevitable. That is the process of having kids.
Yeah, I see myself as a plant. I have roots. Those roots are deep, dark, and in the mud, and that's okay. I am not looking to repot. No part of me wants to, and that's okay, because I just set myself a boundary that I don't want to cross. And down the line, if I do change my mind, then I'm happy that I was able to grow in that perspective. Personally, I don't think I do. I will. However, I would love to adopt. There are so many children out there that do not have families. And so it's like, why does it have to be my blood to to have a family or have children? It's not like I don't like children. I just don't want my own. And then third thing is, if hopefully when I'm rich enough, I'll just get a surrogate. So I don't have to do it. I don't have to make sure that my hormones are in check.
Wow.
If we're really talking,
I heard on your previous point, I read Khalil Gibran. He says in his book, The Prophet, he says children. He's like talking to the families and parents. He's like, but parents, like your children don't belong to you. They belong to the earth. They just come through you. You are just here to make sure that they grow up and survive.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been fantastic.
And there is, I've been inconsistent in ending it with each episode, but this is a question I'm trying to ask in every episode. And so it typically leans towards like one art. So I guess you can choose to answer this however, but I like to ask, like say when you wake up, when you go to sleep tonight, you are going to forget everything you know about your expression, whether it's like writing or your ambition, your drive. I don't know. I've only talked to poets so far, and so it's like you forget poetry. But you can write yourself advice on one Post-it note to get yourself back to where you were and beyond. And so, what would that be? And I guess that's definitely a variation of what you asked me earlier of what would you tell younger Anika or younger David?
I would just write, feel all of it. Like, just feel it. Like, I think that I love having the ability to feel the range of emotions that I feel. Like, I was grateful that I felt a headache this afternoon, because it meant that I had put in so much work this week that my brain was like, you need a nap after this, and feel that. But then the 2 interviews that I had earlier made me feel so energetic, and like I had that, and it just feel it. And I know if I forget everything that I'm working on, who I am, I know if I woke up tomorrow morning and I just told myself just to feel what you're feeling and continue to feel it, I'll be back eventually.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much. Where can people find you and what you're working on?
So my Instagram is Anikers, ANIKERSSS. And my book is called The Only in the Room. And the Instagram handle is The Only in the Room.
I love it.
I got real lucky finding it.
I had to make, when I get ideas, I have to make random Instagram pages. And I think that's what everyone does. And that's why none are ever available.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
Right on. Well, this was awesome. Especially for being so impromptu. I appreciate your flexibility, and this was great.
Absolutely. Thank you, David.
Yep.